Call this organizational meeting of council to order for January 2nd. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Arnold, if you'd lead us in that, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's an organizational meeting of council, which means 3 members of council who have been elected will be sworn in, as well as the mayor of Avon Lake will be sworn in. So the first thing we're going to need, Mrs. Rossmarin, is submitting of the certificates of election.
For the certificates for election.
Thank you.
For the record.
And the next thing we're going to need is the submitting of the public official bonds.
Okay, the public official bonds.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we do have the Honorable Judge Daryl Ballazzini, who is going to do the ceremony this evening. So with that, the administration of oath of office to the council-elect, please move forward and we present those. Mr. James, Mr. Izzo, Mr. Furtbash. There, you stand over there. I'll stand over there too.
One copy for you and one copy for them.
I was told to have you stand a little closer to avoid the light. And if you want to grab the paper to make it easier, you don't have to even think about it as far as memory, just think about the words you're saying.
The judge has Gary's. There's 2 of each copy and 2 is yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gary, there's yours.
Okay.
If you raise your right hand, please. I, and then state your name.
I, Jennifer Penderbush,
The undersigned elected member of the Council of the City of Avon Lake, Ohio,
the undersigned elected member of the Council of the City of Avon Lake, Ohio,
do solemnly swear that I am a resident and a qualified elector of said city,
do solemnly swear that I am a resident and a qualified elector of said city,
and I further swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and I further swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and that I will faithfully, honestly, and impartially discharge the duties of the office
and that I will faithfully, honestly, and impartially discharge the duties of the office
of member of the Avon Lake City Council during my continuance in said office of an elected term expiring December 31, 2023.
member of the Avon Lake City Council during my continuance in said office of an elected term expiring December 31st, 2023.
Well done. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
We'll need you to sign those.
I can take the notes.
Here, I think I've got your extra. Your other one.
I just want the floor.
Sign
Yes.
both. Yeah.
Yes, please.
What?
I will- I'll sign the moment after.
That's fine.
Okay. I'm
Oh,
gonna hold it.
that's right.
Is that in my life coming up? The Bible he wants.
We're gonna read it together because I didn't read it myself.
Oh, okay.
Repeat after me. I, Gregory J. Zilka,
I, Gregory J. Zilka,
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of
and
Ohio
the Constitution of the State of Ohio
and the statutes and ordinances of the State of Ohio and the City of Avon Lake,
and the statutes and ordinances of the State of Ohio and the City of Avon Lake,
and will faithfully, honestly, and impartially
and will faithfully, honestly, and impartially
discharge and perform the duties incumbent on me as mayor
discharge the duties incumbent upon me as mayor
of the City of Avon Lake, Lorraine County, Ohio,
of the City of Avon Lake, Lorraine County, Ohio,
for the term beginning January 1, 2020,
for the term beginning January 1, 2020,
according to the best of my ability
according to the best of my ability
and understanding, so help me God.
and understanding, so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you. You already signed it.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor.
Appreciate you inviting me.
I want to thank the judge for coming on this evening and doing the ceremonies for the 3 elected officials, 4 elected officials, I should say. And I'm certainly looking forward to working with everybody again. And just because of the hard work put in to get here, I thought you guys like to say a couple of words. Mr. Rizzo, if you'd like to say a few words to the residents.
Number one is I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to represent the Ward number 3 and the residents of Avon Lake, and I will put every effort into the position. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Fenderbosh?
Thank you. Thank you again for having confidence in me. And there are some projects that need to be finished and completed, and I look forward to working with the community and doing that, and with my fellow councilmen and the administration. Thank you.
Mr. James?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wish to thank my constituents for continuing to place their trust in me, and I promise to do my best while I'm in office. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor?
Thank you. Mr. Izzo, the chair fits you very well there, so good luck.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're going to do well. I'm looking forward for the next 4 years working with all of council. We have a budget that has been established, and we have goals and objectives established, and I'm looking forward to us working together to accomplish virtually everything that we set out to do. We know realistically some things get left behind, but we will do them all in the best interest of the residents of the City of Avon Lake. Thank you, Mr. Council President.
Thank you, Mayor. And with that, I'll call this meeting to order. And Mr. Rossmarin with the roll call, please.
Mr. Arnold.
Here.
Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Here?
Mr. Izzo.
Here.
Mr. James.
Here.
Mr. Koss. Mr. O'Donnell.
Here.
Mr. Zuber.
Here.
Mayor Zilka.
Here.
Assistant Law Director Graves.
Here.
Finance Director Presley. Public Works Director Wrights.
Mr. Costa is on family vacation. Mr. Costa was sworn in last week at the last council meeting. Any objections to that? We'll move forward. Or nominations for the council president. Any nominations for council president?
I move to nominate Martin O'Donnell to serve as president of council for the 2020-2021 term of council.
Are there any other nominations? Okay, we're going to close the nominations. Mrs. Fenderbosh, discussion?
We have enjoyed leadership under you, sir, and we look forward to continuing.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Council President. I also am very pleased that you have assumed this, will be assuming this responsibility. We have a very good working relationship, and we have confidence in each other, and I'm very pleased and glad that you're willing to take on the gavel once again, and I think we can do a lot of good things in the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank my fellow council members. I don't take that nomination lightly. I try to be as reasonable as I can up here and give people the opportunity. It's certainly been a pleasure working with the council members. We have a lot of new ideas that have come up for legislation that have passed, a lot of good programs throughout the years that we've come up with to help. And we have a good working relationship with the mayor and the administration, which I think is important. So I've always said, people, they want you to come down here and get things done here, and that's what you're here for. So we've done that. The number of terms each one of us have served shows that, and having Mr. Izzo with some good experience and new ideas, that's going to be a big help as well. So again, I thank you very much. Mr. Rossmarin with the roll call, please.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Yes.
Mr. Izzo.
Yes.
Mr. James.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
Yes.
Next is the nomination for council president Pro-Temp. I nominate Mrs. Fenderbosh. Any other nominations? Close the nominations. In discussions, Mrs. Fenderbosh has been excellent council president Pro-Temp for me because of the fact that when I'm not here, she's done a great job in taking over. She's done a great job for council, covering us for the planning commission. Did a great job on the sewer committee, working with the Avon Lake Regional Water and getting the sewer separation projects completed, which was a major project over a number of years. And besides being president of the Avon Lake Garden Club, so she's had a busy year, has done an excellent job, and I appreciate the council bringing her back as the council pro-temp. Any further discussion? Mayor.
Thank you, sir. I echo your terms, your words, sir. Mrs. Fenderbosh has been a great asset to the city of Avon.
Go ahead.
Mrs. Fenderbosh has been a great asset to the city as the president pro tem of council, and I'm looking forward to working with her once again over the next 4 years.
Thank you. Mr. Rossmarin with the roll, please.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Yes.
Mr. Izzo.
Yes.
Mr. James.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
Yes.
That. Next is we need a motion, and I turn to Mr. James for the next motion, please.
I move to approve the 2020 council meeting schedule.
Discussion?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the schedule that lays out all of our meetings for the upcoming year. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Mr. Rossmarin with the roll, please.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Yes.
Mr. Izzo.
Yes.
Mr. James.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
Yes.
Next motion is the approval of the council committees. In discussion, these committees, which I'll name out and its members, discussed in 2 meetings that we had back in December in terms of who would be what chairs and what members served on what committees. Economic Development, chair is going to be Mr. Arnold. Mrs. Fenderbosh and Mr. James will serve on that. Finance is myself, Mrs. Fenderbosh and Mr. Zuber. Human Resources, the chair will be Mr. Zuber, that'll be Mr. Koss and myself. Natural Resources, Environmental and Public Media, the chair will be Mr. Izzo, and it'll be Mr. Arnold and Mr. Zuber. Public Service, Mr. James, that'll be Mrs. Fenderbosh and Mr. Koss. On Safety, it's Mr. Koss as the chair, Mr. James and myself on Safety. Sewer will be Mrs. Fenderbosh as the chair. Mr. Arnold and Mr. Izzo will be on the Sewer Committee. And on the Walker Road Ad Hoc Committee, the chair will be Mr. James. Mr. Izzo and myself will be serving on the Walker Road Ad Hoc Committee. Any further discussion? Mr. Rossmarin with the roll, please.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Yes.
Mr. Izzo.
Yes.
Mr. James.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
Yes.
Next motion, Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Thank you. I move to confirm the mayor's appointment of Stephen Presley to the position of Finance Director effective January 1st, 2020 for a term concurrent with the term of the mayor.
Discussion?
Yes. Mr. Presley is also on the RETA board, and he has brought tremendous expertise to this city and has helped us not only direct our future finances, but also how we invest our current. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Presley has been finance director for about 6 years, and in that period of time, every year that he has submitted the appropriate documents, he has received awards by a national association which monitors the effective and efficient operation of city budgets, and he has led us through some very interesting times and very productive times, and our finances are in good order, and the city's assets are stable, and we're looking forward to another 4 years with Mr. Presley's leadership.
Any further discussion? Mr. Rossmarin with the roll, please.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Yes.
Mr. Izzo.
Yes.
Mr. James.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
Yes.
Motion, I move to appoint Valerie Rossmarin to the position of Clerk of Council, effective January 1st, 2020, to serve for a term concurrent with this council. In discussion, I can't say enough of the work that Ms. Rossmarin has done, not only bringing council forward in the area of technology, but dealing with various demands that are made, not only from the administration, but also from fellow council members and from fellow citizens, and really coming up with new ideas and a better way to do business throughout. We're really fortunate to have someone with her abilities, and I thank you for all your work that you've done.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Yes, and in the short time that she's been our council clerk, she has also completed the certification programs for clerks, which not every city has. So I'm just very proud of her. She's met every goal and has exceeded them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Mayor?
Mrs. Rossmarin does an outstanding job, and we can rest assured when she presents the agenda, it's done right. And when we ever question it, we find out we're wrong, and she is the one who's in the right. So she does a great job. We're very lucky to have her in that position.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Rossmarin, with the roll, please.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh?
Yes.
Mr. Izzo?
Yes.
Mr. James?
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mr. Zuber?
Yes.
Next motion, Mr. Arnold.
Thank you. I move to confirm the mayor's appointment of Gary Tippin to the position of municipal engineer effective January 1st, 2020 for a term concurrent with the term of the mayor.
Discussion?
I'm going to defer to the mayor on
Mayor?
this.
Thank you. Our charter does not allow Mr. Joe Rice to serve as the city engineer because he has not had 5 years of experience with that license. So Joe took 12 years to get through college while working very hard for the city of Avon Lake, but the charter again has him waiting about 2 more years before he can do that. Therefore, we have to go outside to hire an engineer. Mr. Tippin has done a great job. He's out of a firm out of Toledo, and he supervises from a distance, and he provides the proper seals and endorsements as necessary by law. And Mr. Rice basically prepares everything for him. So we're looking forward to the day when Joe Rice could be a full-fledged engineer of the city and be able to do all of the legal applications and appliances to various documents. So this has been a very good relationship, and we are looking forward to working with this gentleman again.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Ms. Rossmarin, with the roll, please.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh?
Yes.
Mr. Izzo?
Yes.
Mr. James?
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mr. Zuber?
Yes,
Next motion, Mr. Zuber.
I move to confirm the mayor's appointment of Thomas Carlton to the position of building official effective January 1st, 2020 for the term concurrent with the term of the mayor.
Discussion?
Tom has served in this position for a number of years, and I've worked with Tom in the past on several different things. And one thing you can always count on Tom is that he can find a way to try and make something work when everyone else doesn't think it can go. He will, rest assured, he'll work very hard to find a way to make it work. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Further discussion, Mr. Mayor Zilke.
Thank you. We're very pleased that Mr. Carlton is going to serve another 4 years for the city of Avon Lake. We're very lucky.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion? Ms. Rossmarin, with the roll, please.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh?
Yes.
Mr. Izzo?
Yes.
Mr. James?
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mr. Zuber?
Yes.
Next motion, Mr. James.
I move to confirm the mayor's appointment of Timothy Pinchek to the position of Recreation Director effective January 1st, 2020 for a term concurrent with the term of the mayor.
Discussion?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Pinchek has served now for a number of years as Recreation Director, has done an outstanding job really bringing that department to 2020, and I look forward to him continuing to do so over the next 4 years.
Thank you, sir. Further discussion, Mr. Zilke.
Thank you. Mr. Pinchek has added many programs to the city recreation department and has expanded the number of people who are able to participate in recreation activities of all types. Now we have the Anchor, which is becoming very successful. We have a variety of different events going down there. Pickleball seems to be the most popular now, but we do have yoga, and we also have various exercise classes, particularly for people like with Parkinson's disease, and it's been very well received. So we're lucky to have the creativity and the enthusiasm that Mr. Pinchek brings to the job.
Any further discussion? Ms. Rossmarin, with the roll, please.
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh?
Yes.
Mr. Izzo?
Yes.
Mr. James?
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mr. Zuber?
Yes.
Next motion, Mr. Arnold.
Thank you. I move to confirm the mayor's appointment of Edward Esborn to the position of Economic Development Director effective January 1st, 2020 for the term concurrent with the term of the mayor.
Discussion?
Yes, since I've been on board here the last 2 years, I've worked with Ted Esborn as he's the Economic Development Director along with my committee. He's done a great job. He's the liaison between some of the businesses, most of the businesses here within the city, and effectively communicates any issues or problems he might have
with the city or new businesses that come in. He's done a great job, and I've enjoyed working with him, and I think it's a great appointment.
Thank you, sir. Further discussion, Mayor?
Thank you very much. Mr. Esborn has been a very effective economic development director. He has come up with this, taking the Small Business Saturday and turning it into Shop Local for about 10 days. We had a grand prize of $1,800 in gift certificates from various small businesses in Avon Lake, and that got a lot of attention. We had 10,000 entries into that drawing. Also, he has expanded the ribbon cutting, and we just did Big M Pizza on Lear Road, and we had several hundred people respond positively to that event, which was posted online, and the new businesses are very pleased to get that much publicity and give them a head start in doing well for the residents and also for the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Mr. Esmer, with the roll, please.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Yes.
Mr. James.
Yes.
Mr. Izzo.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
Yes.
Next item, I move to appoint Jennifer Fenderbosh as council's representative to the Planning Commission effective January 1st of 2020 for a term expiring December 31st of 2020 with 21. I just want to thank Mrs. Fenderbosh. I don't know if this is your third or fourth appointment to the Planning Commission. You do an excellent job, not only leading the way for the Planning Commission there, but also in your presentations to the public, which is an important item when you come and make presentations on the screen, and especially from the viewing audience here and also in television land, that they understand that they can't get down here, they can at least understand what your presentation and what is going on with construction and the changes with that. So I want to again thank you for the time and the effort that you put into these presentations and your input at the Planning Commission. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
Further comments? Mr. Esmer, with the roll, please.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Yes.
Mr. Izzo.
Yes.
Mr. James.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
Yes.
Next motion, Mrs. Fenderbosh.
I move to appoint Scott O'Reilly to Planning Commission effective January 1st, 2020 for a term expiring December 31st, 2024.
Discussion?
Yes, Scott has been on the Planning Commission for a very short time. He came in as a result of an opening that occurred, and he is an attorney that has brought his experience dealing with planning commissions in other areas in construction. And today, we're going to have to, this week probably, this next week, we're going to have to appoint a new president, but he has taken over Randy Nyland's position since the tragic death of Randy. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Mayor?
Before his serving on Planning Commission for a short period of time, Mr. Arillo served on civil service for, I think, 7 years. He's done a great job.
Further discussion? Mr. Osborne, with the roll, please.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Yes.
Mr. Izzo.
Yes.
Mr. James.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
Yes.
Next motion, Mr. Zuber.
I move to confirm the mayor's appointment of John Palenko to the Civil Service Commission effective January 1st, 2020 for a term expiring on December 31st, 2025.
Discussion?
The mayor said that Mr. Aurelio, our prior appointment to the Planning Commission, once he did step down from this position on the Civil Service Commission, it was John Palenko that was recommended by him, and the mayor followed through with that appointment of him. And I don't know if the mayor probably has a few other comments too.
Further discussion?
Thank you, sir, if I could.
Mayor.
Mr. Palenko has done a great job in the short time he's been on civil service. I believe it's been a year. And he has stepped up, and he's matching the fine service that Scott Arillo did for the city. So we're lucky to have such fine people in our city to fill these positions. We have over 70 people who volunteer for commissions and boards, and they help make the city work. And without their efforts, we would not be able to run an effective city as we do. So we're lucky to have him.
Further discussion? Mr. Osborne, with the roll, please.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Yes.
Mr. Izzo.
Yes.
Mr. James.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
Yes.
Next motion, Mr. Izzo.
I move to confirm the mayor's appointment of Frank Hamister to the Zoning Board of Appeals effective January 1st, 2020 for a term expiring December 31st, 2024.
Discussion?
Yes, I served with Mr. Hamister on the Board of Zoning Appeals. He's very knowledgeable. He was always prepared. and it was a real pleasure working with him during the time I was on the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Further discussion? Sure.
Thank you. Mr. Hamster has served several terms already, and if you go to the meetings, he carries a very heavy gavel, if you know what I mean. He pounds that gavel on the table, and you know that the decision has been made. We're lucky to have Mr. Hamster continue in that position.
Further discussion? Mr. Rossmarin with the roll, please.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Yes.
Mr. Izzo.
Yes.
Mr. James.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
Yes.
Next motion, Mrs. Fenderbosh.
I move to confirm the mayor's appointment of Rob James as a council representative to the Parks and Recreation Commission effective January 1st, 2020, for a term expiring December 31st, 2021.
Discussion?
Yes, it makes so much sense because Rob is the chair of public service to bring the concepts from the commission, which are volunteer residents, up through public service. And he's been effective in doing this in the past. Thank you.
Further discussion? Mayor?
I echo Mrs. Fenderbosh's comments.
Thank you. Mr. Rossmarin with the roll, please.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Yes.
Mr. Izzo.
Yes.
Mr. James.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
Yes.
Next motion, Mr. James.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to confirm the mayor's appointment of Kara Erdman and Stacy Yantz to the Parks and Recreation Commission effective January 1st, 2020 for terms expiring December 31st, 2022.
Discussion?
Thank you, Mr. President. Both Ms. Erdman and Mrs. Yantz have served with distinction on the commission for at least a few years, with Mrs. Yantz going back, I think, a couple decades now, and I look forward to them continuing on to the commission. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Further discussion? Mr. Rossmarin with the roll, please.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Yes.
Mr. Izzo.
Yes.
Mr. James.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
Yes.
Next motion, Mr. Izzo.
I move to appoint Rita George, Beth Murphy, Marty Patton, Kip Sekulik, and Terry Wyrock to the Environmental Affairs Advisory Board for the terms expiring December 31st, 2021.
Discussion?
These individuals have served on the Environmental Affairs Board and have done an outstanding job, and it's just very refreshing to see them step back up and want to do this again. It's a good commitment on the part of them.
Further discussion? Mr. Rossmarin with the roll, please.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Yes.
Mr. Izzo.
Yes.
Mr. James.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
Yes.
Next motion, Mr. Arnold.
Thank you. I move to confirm the mayor's appointment of Nicholas Perry to the Digital Media Commission for a term expiring December 31st, 2022.
Discussion?
Yes, I do not know Nicholas Perry personally, so I'm going to defer to the mayor on this.
Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Council President. Mr. Perry has served for 3 years, and he's very enthusiastic, and he's one of the many people who work with digital media to make it such a success. We've got this program right now live on television, and of course it is repeated over several weeks period of time, and it's also online. And we are very proud of all the awards they have won when they submit programs to various competitions with regard to digital media. We're very lucky to have the programs that they offer our residents.
Further discussion? Mr. Rossmarin with the roll, please.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Yes.
Mr. Izzo.
Yes.
Mr. James.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
Yes.
Next motion, Mr. James.
Thank you. I move to confirm the mayor's appointment of Gene Sekulik to the Citizen Tree Commission for a term expiring December 31st, 2022.
Discussion?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mrs. Sekulik has served in a number of capacities for the city and has assisted in contributing to the community in a number of ways. She's passionate about Tree City USA here in Avon Lake, and so her appointment for the Citizens Tree Commission is such a good thing. Of course, it comes with an automatic appointment to the Parks and Recreation Commission, which she's dutifully participated on, and I look forward to her continuing on in her role on the Citizen Tree Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mayor?
Thank you. Jean is a dedicated citizen who has served in many levels of capacity, and she does everything well. We're very lucky to have her once again to serve on the Tree Commission.
Further discussion? Mr. Rossmarin with the roll, please.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Yes.
Mr. Izzo.
Yes.
Mr. James.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
Yes.
Next motion, Mrs. Fenderbosh.
I move to appoint Douglas Ryder and Deborah Baird to the Historical Preservation Commission for terms expiring December 31st, 2021.
Discussion?
Yes, according to our charter, the appointment by council, this would be of 2 citizens members to the Historical Preservation Commission. And Douglas Ryder is the proud owner of one of the homes that has actually received the award for the historical preservation. And Deborah Baird has married into one of the original families here in Avon Lake and has kept many, many records. Both of them love history and are dedicated volunteers and bring their expertise from their original careers to this particular position. I'm happy that they're going to be appointed again.
Further discussion? Mr. Rossmarin, at the roll, please.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Yes.
Mr. Eisel.
Yes.
Mr. James.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
Yes.
Next item, Mr. Zuber.
I move to appoint Joseph Adams and John Hall to the Income Tax Board of Review for term expiring December 31st, 2021.
Discussion?
I believe Mr. Adams and Mr. Hall currently sit on this board, although this board seldom meet. It only meets when we have someone that is disputing the amount of income tax that they have to pay to the city of Avon Lake.
Further discussion? Mr. Rossmarin, at the roll, please.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Yes.
Mr. Eisel.
Yes.
Mr. James.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
Yes.
Next motion, Mr. Eisel.
I move to confirm the mayor's appointment of Tim McNeil to the Income Tax Board of Review for a term expiring December 31st, 2021. I'll defer to the mayor. Any comments?
Discussion?
Yep,
Mayor?
thank you. Mr. McNeil is a resident of Avon Lake, obviously, and he and his wife have been dedicated servants of the city in various capacities. The whole board, Income Tax Board of Review, does not meet very much, as Mr. Zuber said, but there are a number of inquiries and challenges to the regional income tax interpretation of our income tax requirements, and for the most part, these issues are worked out before they go before a hearing. So we're able to get an understanding of what needs to be done and what's a fair handling of their tax issues, and it's done with confidentiality, and it has worked very well for the city. So all 3 of these people, the 2 before, and then Mr. McNeil, have done a great job.
Further discussion? Mr. Rossmarin, at the roll, please.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Yes.
Mr. Eisel.
Yes.
Mr. James.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
Yes.
It was a motion portion of the meeting. We do have one item, temporary legislation, 11,332. If the clerk would read that, please.
Mr. President.
Sir,
I'm
point
sorry.
of order, we need to do item number 29 first.
Pardon me?
We need to do item number 29 first.
That is.
This is 29. Temporary legislation, 11,332.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so if the clerk of council would read that, please.
An ordinance confirming the employment of Mary Swerka as part-time Human Resources Director for the City of Avon Lake, establishing the compensation for said position and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Zuber.
I move for the suspension of the council rule requiring 3 readings.
Mr. Rossmarin, at the roll, please.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Yes.
Mr. Eisel.
Yes.
Mr. James.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
I move for passage of temporary legislation 11,332.
Discussion?
Mary Swerka was interviewed by both the mayor and the outgoing human resource director, and they both felt that she was the best choice for the position. It was discussed in HR last month. We reported it out of the HR committee as favorable for her appointment this evening. She has a wealth of knowledge and experience within local government. And I think that she's going to be a great asset, and there's going to be a lot of other things that she'll be able to work with the city and the mayor and council on in the future. So we're glad to have her aboard.
Thank you, sir. Mayor, thank you for coming down this evening, and welcome. Mayor?
Thank you. Mary's here with her husband, Gary, so welcome, Gary. Mary has served the city of Elyria with distinction over the years. She put about 12 years in, and then left that job and left the city and worked for the Cleveland Clinic and actually for Dr. Costin and Dr. Seipel. and she did human resource responsibilities under them and under the clinic, including reorganizing and rewriting job descriptions for that institution, which I think we all respect. She returned to the city of Elyria about 10 or 12 years ago, and she's done an outstanding job, as I said, and we're very, very lucky to have her take the place of Joe DiTilio. So we're very pleased that she's being considered this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Any further discussion? Mr. Rossmarin with the roll, please.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Yes.
Mr. Izzo.
Yes.
Mr. James.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
Yes.
Passes. Before we go to adjournment, we'll open up the floor for 5 minutes. If anyone would like to speak this evening to council, give your name and address, and the question is part of the 5 minutes. Anyone like to speak this evening? Okay, with that, we'll need a motion to adjourn, Mrs. Fenderbosh.
I move for adjournment.
Mr. Rossmarin with the roll, please.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Yes.
Mr. Izzo.
Yes.
Mr. James.
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
Yes.
Meeting is concluded. Thank you for coming down. Appreciate it. Thank you for viewing this evening.